Hey, Stay Paid listeners, producer Ethan Aguilar here with just a quick update to make sure nobody gets confused watching this episode. We actually recorded Katie Kenny a few months back in April before making the shift into the new studio and the new format with Steven and Cody. So if you're watching this episode and you're like, why are Luke and Josh in the old studio? Why are they not following the new format with Steven and Cody? It's because we filmed it a few months back before we made the shift, and now that we finally found our footing with the new show, we wanted to make sure all the old episodes that we recorded finally get released because she had so much amazing value to share in this episode. So sit back, relax. Katie Kenny dives into door knocking, open houses. You're going to learn a lot in this episode. So, sit back and enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Stay Paid podcast, where we help agents and entrepreneurs master the latest business trends to unlock growth and create a life of freedom. Brought to you by Reminder Media.
Welcome to Stay Paid. My name is Joshua Stike along with Luke Acree, and our guest today is Katie Kenny. With a background in construction, marketing, and sales, Katie brings the much-needed adaptability and digital fluency of Gen Z to real estate. She excels in visual storytelling and genuine engagement on social media, building a personal brand that resonates with the younger demographic. Katie is dedicated to transforming the real estate experience, focusing on transparent and innovative interactions with the next generation of buyers, sellers, and realtors. Katie, welcome to Stay Paid. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Katie, it is awesome to have you on the show. You should have added to the bio, incredible networker too. Yeah. Because I have met Katie multiple times out at these conferences, and your energy and your networking ability is fantastic. I see you always going around, and it always feels like you're with a group of people, and it's not always the same people, but you guys must have that tribe that's going around from all these conferences. But I'm excited to have you on the show. Can you share a little bit of like what led you into real estate, how long you've been in real estate, and then we'll dive into the marketing aspect?
Yeah. Well, I started in real estate about a year and a half ago, and a couple months ago, it's funny because I didn't know anybody, and then I made all these friends in real estate. So I went the first year pretty much of my career not knowing a ton of people in the industry, but I previously was in construction, so I did marketing, sales, and management for a residential house painting business. And so for that, I knocked on doors and cold called, and I had to recruit painters and interview them and manage job sites. So I was doing that all through college and a full-time student at University of Illinois. So I really learned how to manage my time doing that. I was going back and forth from school every weekend.
Oh, wow. Were you doing 40 hours a week doing that? Going to school? Yeah, so you have a great work ethic. Jeez.
I can't sit still. I feel like I always have to be.
Guys, if you watch the video, she's literally like bouncing back. I'm just kidding. No, you're sitting fine.
No, right now we're chilling. But yeah, then after doing that, I had already kind of learned a little bit about houses, and I knew more the construction side, and that's what got me interested in the investing in real estate. And that was where I started learning about that side of things. And so I was like, well, I want to start investing in real estate. How can I start doing that? Got my real estate license right after I graduated college and just went full-time into real estate, which was a little bit scary, but I managed.
You picked an interesting time to do it too, because you said a year and a half you've been in?
Yeah. So I started end of 2022.
Yeah, so last year was considered to be like the worst year in 30 years in real estate. And then this year you have all the lawsuit stuff going on and everything. So you got in and you're succeeding in this market. You know, you're having success in what you're doing. I know you had said that you generated a bunch of commissions from open houses as a new agent. I would love to hear your thoughts on and maybe you take us back even before the open houses, like you got into the business. How did you hit the ground running to try to get deals?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So open houses were really the main pillar of my business when I started, because for me, I knew that as a new agent, my sphere wasn't necessarily going to just trust me right off the bat with something so big. So I would ask all the agents at my brokerage if I could host open houses for them, and it was quantity over quality at the beginning. I just needed to have as many conversations as possible and kind of practice what to say. And so I didn't have any listings at the beginning, so I was asking these experienced agents if I could host opens at their listings, and I
Nice.
really put in some sweat equity on those. I would offer to do a social media video for them. I would send them my whole like pre-marketing strategy, which I'll get into, my during open house advertising follow-up plan. Because there were a lot of agents asking to do these open houses. So I felt like I needed to do something to stand out. So yeah, before the open house, I would always go to the listing and do a video. And then I would, before the open house, it was about a week, I would prep for it by doing circle dialing about 3 or 4 days before. I'd pull the numbers and the emails of the neighbors from Remine, or you can use like Mojo or Redex or any of those dialers. And so I would call all the neighbors and invite them to the open house.
Wow.
And I would ask if they knew anybody who was interested in moving to the neighborhood. And that was just a good way to like have conversations with them, because that's where a lot of that commission that I made came from, was the neighbors. It wasn't necessarily people that came into the open house.
That yes.
And so
Just like the golden nugget there of standing out. I just went to the 10X conference, which was Grant Cardone's conference, and John Maxwell made the point of, you know, you're basically in a pile of bodies when you want something out of life. There's a ton of other people that want it, and you're just a pile of people. And he goes, how do you get yourself out of the pile to stand out? And he gave the example when he was trying to get mentored by John, I think it was Wooden, the famous basketball coach. He, spent, dozens of hours coming up with tons of different questions. And he went through the whole thing of when he sat down with John Wooden, he pulled out his notepad and went over all these questions. And John Wooden was so impressed that he said it didn't get him totally out of the people pile, but he said, I got a hand out. I got a foot out where John Wooden could actually see me versus all the other pile of people. And in your situation, you literally showcase to that agent, here's how I'm going to market your listing that you have and make you look awesome. And then you took it to the next level, filming a video, going and actually calling the neighbors just to get yourself out of the pile of other agents that were asking for that listing, which is incredible.
yeah, well, thank you. And it's interesting because we have to do that with consumers too. But the fact that I had to do that with the agents to even host the open house. But yeah, I feel like as realtors too, we're a dime a dozen. There's everybody's a realtor. So you have to do something to stand out. And I think that was a big thing for me doing open houses, is I'm like, they're going to 5 or 6 open houses on a Sunday. I want them to remember me and my open house versus all the other ones. And so I have a bunch of stuff that I do, and I still do at every single open house. So the day of the open house, I do like 5 to 10 directional signs, which are so important. That's where, so I have like a $1.2 million buyer right now because of a directional sign.
Wow.
That is why they came in, and I'm working with them now. I got a neighbor's listing because of the directional sign. And so they're so annoying to put out and pick up when you're tired at the end of the day. But that one is definitely worth the time and energy, because those are the people that you want, the people that live in the neighborhood and already own a home. And so I have people sign in at the open houses, but if they're not going to sign in, I'm not going to force them to. And my biggest thing is I don't let people leave empty-handed. I'm a big gift giver in life in general. And so I carry that over into my open houses. So at the open house, I have a couple different things I give everyone. So first thing is like a little goodie bag with like some snacks, candy, a branded
Smart.
item. And then depending on the price point, I'll also do like a $5 Starbucks gift card in there. I've had people call me, say, hey, I remembered you. You were the one that gave us the gift card. And this is like months after that open house.
Wow.
Yeah. And then that's not even, I think, the most important part. I think the other 2 things that are actually like real estate value are the most important. So the one is an open house schedule of all the open houses that weekend in the town. And I don't know really why no other agent does that, because I feel like it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. Wow.
But yeah, I do that. And then I also have kind of my magic word sentence that I say to people who are at the open house. I ask them if they're being notified of properties that are in the private network. And anyone listening, just so that's coming soon or off
What
market.
a great line. The private network. That is so good.
It's the FOMO. You create that and it generates that curiosity, and no other agents are creating that offer during their open house. So immediately people are like, oh, I want to be a part of that. And so then I get them set up. I'll get their email if they didn't already sign in. They're like, oh yeah, like add me to that. I want to know this. I want to know this town, this town, and this town. Here's what I'm looking for. And boom, you have their set of criteria that they're looking for. You know what they want. You know, if they, oh, I live in this town. This is what my house looks like. So it's just like
That is
awesome.
such gold. Yeah, that is
Like,
so
I
good.
get excited talking about it because it's just so fun. And then, so I do that and then they leave. And then after the open house, the follow-up, you have like Ryan Serhant is the one that's always like follow up till the deal happens or they die or whatever he says. And I totally agree with that. So I do a text like right after the open house. I have a pretty good response rate with texts. Some people do video follow-up messages. I just haven't had the best response rate with that. So I do a text, and then the first business day after the open house, so Monday, I call everyone who gave me their number, unless they said don't call me. And then I'll just ask them, what did you think of the open house? What did you think of the other houses you saw that weekend? And I just build a rapport with them. And it's really just like having a good relationship, because sometimes they're already working with an agent and they'll tell you that, but you can still be a person that gives them value if they haven't have an agent already. Like I sent other listings to people who have an agent and they're like, thank you so much. And they'll send my info to their friend or their daughter or something like that. And then just continuing to follow up, like sending similar properties every once in a while, calling if there's another open house like in that same area they were at. And yeah, I've had people transact with me a week after the open house. And I've also had people that I follow up with for a year. They never respond. And then they finally respond and they want to buy or sell with me. So it's just continuing to have those touch points.
Yeah, that's wild. What incredible tips right there that I've not heard people do at the open house, especially the one where you're saying, do you want access to the private network? Like that is amazing because it does give you that urgency and that FOMO and that also exclusivity. Like people just want to feel they're part of something exclusive. So when you think about like the number of open houses you were doing, was it like one a weekend? Was it 3 a month? Like, would you do as many as you could? Just give people an idea of like how many you were working in your first year.
As many as humanly possible.
Okay.
I think I only took like 3 or 4 weekends off of open houses in 2023.
That's awesome.
I'm trying to do, yeah. And even then I didn't feel like I was doing enough. But I would do 2 every weekend was the goal. But if there was like an amazing, like new listing, perfect price point, there were going to be 30 to 50 people that came in, I would just do one. Maybe because maybe another agent was going to do the other day. So just like as many as possible.
Yeah. And how many people would you, like how many agents did you reach? Just give people an idea. Like what was your conversion, I guess, of agents that you reached out to and how many they actually had you host?
Oh, okay. So yeah, the beginning, I would say the first couple of months, I had to like actively be reaching out to agents and ask them. So sometimes if there weren't that many like new listings, I would ask an agent that had already let me host it because it might have been like a stale listing because if it was on the market longer than a month, like in 2023, it may not have been the best listing, but I would still do an open there. You get people coming in. So I would say I would reach out to like 2 or 3 agents, and then they started reaching out to me though after a couple months of me doing these open houses. People wanted me to host their open house because they knew that I was going to be the one that had a ton of exposure on it. I was going to do the work, not just show up for 2 hours and then go home and not even give them feedback on how it went.
Yeah, that's so good.
Talk about the door knocking, because you also got a pretty big listing from door knocking.
I love door knocking. It's so fun.
That's a rare thing to hear. That's rare to hear.
That's a clip right there. That's how you start the episode. I love door
I think we've had
knocking.
one other guest that actually loves door knocking.
It's so fun. And if you think about it, like, well, at least for me, every day of my real estate career, I wake up and I think, how many people can I talk to today about real estate? How many appointments can I set? My Tom Ferry coach, that's all he wants to know is how many appointments and how many conversations. And what's the best way to get appointments is you show up in front of people. And if they own a house, that's a listing and a buy. So for me, I just try to think about it as positively as possible. And I love talking to people. It's like I'm more comfortable going up and knocking on someone's door versus calling them, which is really weird. But
That's awesome. Yeah.
What's your like script and style of approach to door knocking? Like, because that's so hard for people. I go to a neighborhood and I'm knocking on the door. Like, what are you saying to that homeowner that comes to the door?
Yeah, so I recently got a $700,000 listing from door knocking, and they're also going to be a purchase too. And so this was the script I had. They actually didn't even answer the door. Their neighbor told them to call me. But my script is like, knock on the door. Hi, how's it going today? My name's Katie. I'm a realtor in the area. I actually wanted to stop by because I'm working with a family and we have been looking in this neighborhood. We've made a bunch of offers now and haven't gotten anywhere. I wanted to see if there's any chance of maybe you or if you know any neighbors who might be thinking of selling anytime soon. And then they just want to gossip with you and talk to you.
That is so good. Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, because then you get to know them, and then you can, see if you can collect their information, find out if they're actually looking. Who was it? I think it was Ricky Caruth. He does that similar. It's a similar model through circle prospecting, like calling, where he's just calling and seeing if they are in their dream home or if they knew anybody that was, looking to sell in the neighborhood. And I guess it is people just want to know, well, this person's actually looking to sell in the neighborhood. So talk to me about, you wrote one of the things that you can go viral on green screen videos on social. And I selfishly want to hear your take on that because you're so good at it. It's something we do, these green screen videos. But can you explain to people what the green screen video is and what these components are to help it get views?
Yeah, I love a green screen. It's endless opportunities of like what you can do for the green screen too, which is why I think it's awesome. Because if you're ever having like, you're not like feeling creative, you're like, what can I green screen? And there's so many different routes you can go. You can do like market update if you want to do something like real estate, educational, local news. I first started doing green screens. I was doing celebrity real estate portfolios, and I love pop culture. I know other people love pop culture too. And so I did one on Taylor Swift and people really liked it. And it did take some time to do the research and like make sure I was saying the right numbers and stuff like that. But it started conversations and it's fun. It doesn't necessarily generate business, but it's like a good way to interact with people on social media. And I also wanted to do something though, like educational for my followers while still being entertaining. And that's where the BAM article started coming in because I feel like BAM is the only place really like Luke, like where you can find stuff that's educational for agents, but has zero fluff, but it's somehow still entertaining. And so when I'm choosing an article like that for a green screen, I want something that's going to be educational, but also entertaining because I want someone to want to watch the whole thing, but then also get something out of watching it. So that's when like the hook at the beginning becomes really important. And I think if you just, it's a hook is hard because I feel like you have to play it right depending on what the video is. So I did one hook for like a home tour once that was like, when I die, spread my ashes in Hawthorne Woods. Like it worked for a home tour, but you can't always do something like that for like an educational article. Or there's like I might get canceled for saying this, but, and if you say the word you, apparently there's like, you want to, because other people want to be talked to. So that's a good tip for when you're coming up with your talks. And then what I actually do when I do the green screen, I first write the script. So if it's like an article or a celebrity real estate portfolio or anything, I write the script of what I'm going to say first. And then I record it in the teleprompter app. So then I don't have to take a million takes.
Smart.
I was doing that for like almost like 6 months of just doing like multiple takes, and then I realized how much time I was wasting. So then I started writing the script.
I probably need to try that, the writing of the script. That's a great tip of putting it in the teleprompter, because you do end up taking, whether it's 3 takes, 4 takes, even 10 takes, and so much time goes by. It's like, oh my goodness, I've been doing this reel for 30 minutes. It's like crazy.
Yeah, and if the article or whatever you're talking about required more research on the front end too of like what you're going to talk about, then you end up taking 3 or 4 hours to create one video, which is just not efficient.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Yeah.
Exactly. And so after I do the video, then I have it in my camera roll of me talking. I've got the screenshot, or I'll video record like the scrolling for BAM articles, for example. And then I put it into CapCut. That's the best app, I feel like, for anyone, even if you're a beginner or if you do a ton of videos. So I put it into CapCut, and then I put in the picture, the screenshot of the article, the video. I overlay the video of me talking, and then I remove the background. And then a little nugget is I always remove any breathing or blank space in my videos because I know people's attention spans are really short. My attention span is short. So I just take out any pauses or anything like that and just try to make it as like the quick cuts. And then I put
Does CapCut have the ability to do that and just like remove blanks or remove pauses? Or do you have to go through and actually splice it?
I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I go in there and like splice it down.
Oh, wow,
to,
you
like,
go all in? Yeah.
Second.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm sure there's AI that can do it. I'm sure, call Jason Pantana up. He probably knows. There's probably some AI that does it. I don't know. I need to research it.
I think there is. I just need to learn. I should probably look into that. Save some time there.
But that is a great tip. I mean, literally remove, because you are right. It is the speed of how fast you can get the information. I watched a reel from somebody that I was on their podcast, and they sped up the time. You know how you can listen to things in like 1.5 or 10, but it didn't work. Like I'll actually share it on my story because I want to support him. But I was on his podcast, but I'm just like, yeah, it just makes you not even want to listen to the content because it's too fast almost coming through. So removing the blanks is a great idea, like that blank space or the ums and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because on TikTok, you can actually speed up. I don't know if you guys use TikTok, but you can go and like do 2 times the speed, but on Instagram, they don't allow that. So you want to make sure you're talking at a speed that people want to keep listening, but that's not too fast that they aren't even comprehending what you're saying.
Exactly. And if it's so it could be a pattern interrupt, I guess. I'll have to test it. Maybe the guy's getting good reaction with it. But it was such a pattern interrupt on Instagram when I was looking at stuff. I was just like, and it's me talking, right, that you're just like, it felt weird.
The pattern interrupt was seeing yourself.
Yeah, exactly. When I see myself, I'm like, no, I'm just kidding. No, the pattern interrupt, he sped my voice up like to 1.5 speed or whatever. And, his too, like he was interviewing me. But the reason why I was making this point is because your tip, I think, is a better way to do it, which is just remove the pause. Like remove the pausing and you'll naturally get faster, but it won't be the YouTube speed up type thing that, people do.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm curious, and we'll close out with this, right? You brand it yourself as like the Gen Z realtor, I think is what you called it. Like, and I know, you're young and crushing it. And a lot of people who get into real estate, when they're young, they suffer from almost imposter syndrome, or they don't have the credibility. Can they be doing it? How did you lean into it and make it something brand wise? How did that play out for you?
Yeah. So, thank you. I'm 23, and at first I was like really scared to talk about my age and stuff because I felt like people weren't going to take me seriously, or they were going to think that I wasn't trustworthy because like what 23-year-old would you trust with a $500,000 purchase or sale? And I also was comparing myself to all the other agents in my market who are quite older than I am. And I was thinking, if I'm going up against them, I don't want people to know how young I am. And that's really how I started when I was like starting real estate. But then as I found my voice a little bit more, which I really owe a lot of that to Lindsay Joe, who's amazing. I had reached out to her last because I told her that I love your content, and I liked that she was doing funny but vulnerable stuff. And she really took me under her wing, you could say, and started to give me input on how I could position myself, because I feel like when you don't have a personal brand or like a message that you're putting out, you're not really talking to anybody. So if you're trying to talk to everyone, like we all know that as realtors, you're talking to nobody. So she almost like empowered me to like use the fact that I'm 23 and Gen Z to my advantage, and that knowledge of technology and the marketing and social media can be a really big strength rather than something that I need to like not show off that I'm young and stuff. So I feel like that's when I started to be okay with being Gen Z, and people also like identifying with something. So I found that even my older clients love the messaging, just that I talk about being young and being able to work hard. And I feel like I have a lot of energy because I'm so young too, that people are attracted to that. And the people that are attracted to that, I'm going to want to work with. And I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but the people that want that energy and want someone who is going to say up front, I am going to work harder for you than any other agent, no matter how many years they have in the industry. Nobody is going to care as much about you as I do. And that's how I've won listings over some of these really big agents, because I say no one is going to work harder than me. Nobody cares more, and nobody has more energy towards your house than I do.
Yeah, it's so good. It's confidence. Yeah. I love it too. And Lindsay Jo's a beast. She's amazing. So we were lucky enough to have her on the show too. But it's vulnerability creates vulnerability, and nothing bonds people faster together usually than having some camaraderie or commonality or rapport building around like vulnerability. And if people can see themselves in you, especially you see this a lot of times when you're young, it's like older people are just like, They appreciate work ethic. They appreciate passion. They want to see that in people. And so, because they, want to see it in themselves or saw it in themselves. So they almost are connect with that. So that's pretty amazing. I know a lot of people suffer from that imposter syndrome, especially when they just get into the business. So lean into it. It's an advantage versus something that's going to detract from you. It actually will help you. Awesome.
Yeah, what you're doing is absolutely incredible. Katie, thanks so much for joining us today. Before we close out, let people know how they can connect with you.
You can follow me on Instagram at the Katie Kenny, or you can call me, text me. But yeah, follow me on Instagram, message me, say hi.
Awesome.
You can find me there. Thank you for having me too.
Absolutely. Make sure to check out Katie on Instagram. We'll include those links in the show notes of this episode. You can get that at staypaidpodcast.com along with the video of this episode. And if you enjoyed this and want to show your support, head on over to Apple Podcasts, drop us a 5-star review along with a comment. We will read it here on the show. And the best way to show your support is to share this episode with someone they know. Whether it's on social media, just tell a friend. Tell a friend about Stay Paid. Tell a friend about Katie Kenny. Some amazing strategies in this episode to listen to. If you want to get hold of me or Luke, you can email us at podcast@remindermedia.com. And of course, you can follow us on Instagram. We'll try some more green screens over at Stay Paid Podcast. For this episode of Stay Paid, I'm Joshua Stike.
Guys, I'm Luke Acree. Katie, you did not disappoint. I knew you wouldn't. I was looking forward to this interview. So keep crushing it. I love your content. The action item for everybody listening to this, I think you got some golden tips there, but you got to try the tip with the open house of asking people if they've gotten access to the exclusive network yet, this private network that you can give them, which is off-market, right, listings. That is an incredible strategy that you can implement right away in your open house. In fact, I would encourage you, if you do open houses, just go implement all of what Katie just said there. Remember this, though, the difference between top producers and mediocre producers in every single industry is top producers take action. So take action on that today.